A forgotten 7-episode horror anthology, a sci-fi epic you could play along with at home, and the animated adventures at a freaked-out high school in outer space are just 3 failed shows from the 80s that are worth checking out today. Anthology series have made a comeback in the last decade or so thanks to shows like American Horror Story and Black Mirror. The format has a very rich history, including early iconic series like The Twilight Zone and The Outer Limits, and hits in the 80s and 90s like Tales from the Crypt and Fairy Tale Theater. There were also a number of other attempts to capitalize on the genre which never got the opportunity to grow, getting only 7 episodes on ABC between November 1981 and January 1982. Darkroom usually took the thriller horror route. Veteran actor James Coburn added serious gravitas as the show's narrator, and horror directors Rick Rosenthal and Paul Lynch contributed. In a retrospective, Decider declared that Darkroom still held up in 2020. High praise, given that TV horror tends to age poorly.
Good night.
The 1984 sitcom It's Your Move shouldn't be lumped in with the almost countless number of failed sitcoms from the decade. Before striking sitcom gold for upstart network Fox 2 years later by creating Married with Children, the duo of Ron Levitt and Michael G. Moy swung and missed with It's Your Move on NBC. The miss was only a commercial one, not a creative one, starring a still teenage Jason Bateman, hot off his recurring role on Silver Spoons. It's Your Move leaned a little edgier than most sitcoms of the era, as a show about a teen con artist who's constantly trying to both scam his classmates and ruin his mom's relationship with her new boyfriend. It was probably a bit much for a network that leaned more towards the likes of Punky Brewster and The Facts of Life and its depiction of sitcom kids. The show was pretty well received, but it just wasn't enough to best Dynasty, which aired in the same time slot on ABC. Jeff Goldblum's tenure as a series regular for 2 seasons of Law & Order: Criminal Intent wasn't his first major non-guest spot on a television show. In an alternate universe, he might have become a TV star instead of a movie star, playing a detective in the 1980 police procedural comedy series Tenspeed and Brown Shoe. The series was created by Stephen J. Cannell of the A-Team and 21 Jump Street fame, with Goldblum playing Lionel Brown-Shoe Whitney opposite Ben Viren's E.L. Tenspeed Turner. The series focused on the mismatched pair of private detectives doing standard detective things. The pilot earned strong ratings, and its writing nabbed Cannell both an Emmy nomination and a WGA award. Unfortunately, ratings quickly plummeted, and the accolades weren't enough to convince ABC to give the show a second season. Still, Viren and Goldblum had excellent chemistry, which is still a treat to watch all these years later, and makes you wish the show would have lasted a lot longer. Not to be forgotten, Viren would go on to reprise the role of Tenspeed in Cannell's short-lived 1987 crime series, J.J. Starbuck. Also unforgettable, Jeff Goldblum's fighting noises. Captain Power and the Soldiers of the Future was extremely ahead of its time, and not just because it took place in the 22nd century. Not only did it feature rudimentary computer animation years before that became a standard TV practice, but the Mattel-produced show also served as an interactive multimedia experience that included comics, video games, and toys.
Captain Power videotapes. I don't believe it.
Believe it, large human.
More than just being based on the show, the Captain Power toys were designed to interact with the show at specific points. It was all extremely forward-thinking and well-branded. Probably a little too far ahead of its time, the world didn't really take to the show, which is actually pretty good. While it was limited in what it could do in terms of special effects, sets, and costumes given its budget, it did a lot with what it did have. When the toys failed to sell, investors lost interest in continuing to fund the entire endeavor. Captain Power clearly influenced both Babylon 5 and some very familiar designs predated Star Trek: The Next Generation's Borg by a couple of years. If you can get past the rough edges, the show is a definite hidden gem of 80s-era sci-fi. An attempt to reboot the series was announced in 2016, but it never materialized. There aren't too many examples where a failed TV show is adapted into an entire trilogy of theatrical films. But that's just what happened with 1982's Police Squad, which transformed into the Naked Gun trilogy after bombing on the small screen. Both come from the same writing trio and feature the same rapid-fire absurdist humor from legendary master of deadpan Leslie Nielsen.
Is this some kind of bust?
Yes, it's very impressive, but we'd just like to ask a few questions.
While the Naked Gun movies revel in taking everything to a ridiculous extreme, There's a certain charm to the way Police Squad remains focused on just being a spoof of police procedurals, though plenty of other genres are poked fun at too. One benefit to the show's cancellation after just 6 episodes is that it never needed to up the ante to stay interesting, as it's likely the series would have gone just as over the top as the films if it had gone on for multiple seasons. As it stands, Police Squad feels like 6 Naked Gun prequel mini-movies and serves as a perfect companion to that film series rather than being replaced by it. After appearing in a few cult classic 80s movies, Jim Carrey became a series regular on the groundbreaking sketch comedy series In Living Color. But his back and forth between TV and movies went even farther back than his early film roles in Earth Girls Are Easy and Once Bitten. In 1984, he was given a potential star vehicle in the form of the NBC sitcom The Duck Factory. The show starred Carrey as a fledgling cartoonist who lands a job working at an animation studio producing a cartoon called The Dippy Duck Show. It served as a great showcase for Carrey's manic energy and rubber-faced mugging, and reviews at the time saw that Carrey was a star in the making. The show probably needed another season to iron out some of its wrinkles, but it never got the chance. But it's worth a watch today to see just how fully formed Carrey's shtick already was that early on in his career. Plus, it's easy to marvel at how good he could be in an ensemble, a talent that was mostly lost once he started headlining his own films. Animated shows no longer have the stigma of only being for young children, but in the days before 24-hour cable channels dedicated entirely to cartoons, it was tough for an animated show that wasn't specifically aimed at playground-age kids to find an audience. That was definitely the case for Galaxy High School, a 1986 animated series that had some impressive names behind it. The show was created by Harry Potter director Chris Columbus and had a theme song composed by Eagles guitarist Don Felder. Ren and Stimpy creator John Kay created the character designs, and it starred a pre-Simpsons Nancy Cartwright.
Hi, I'm Gil the Gossip, and I can tell you any secret you want to know. Billy Big Dipper says he's from Venus, but he's really from Saturn.
The show centers on 2 human teenagers from Earth who attend an interstellar institution with students from various planets. Airing on CBS on Saturday mornings, it was assumed to be for the younger set, which is likely why it failed to find enough of an audience to earn a second season. It was a bit too mature for that crowd, but there really weren't many other avenues for cartoons during that time. Galaxy High School would have done better with the young adult audiences that later made shows like Adventure Time and Steven Universe beloved hits. A woman is in a sterile-looking grocery store. She picks up a can labeled meat and asks a worker what kind of meat it actually is.
What kind? Well, what do you mean? It's just meat.
It's one of those moments that gets permanently etched into people's brains, even if they don't know where it came from. In this case, the iconic scene is from an oft-forgotten sci-fi series from 1985 called Otherworld. It's a great representation of the show's dark humor and off-kilter vibe, a combination that mostly confused viewers at the time. It follows a family of 5 whose vacation to visit the pyramids in Egypt ends up transporting them to a parallel version of Earth. Like much sci-fi of the era, Otherworld has a general overarching plot, but most episodes are largely self-contained and often play with genre and format. Ratings didn't justify it getting more than 8 episodes, which ended on a cliffhanger, but it would secure its place as a cult classic for decades to come. Every generation seems to have an iconic show or two about teen angst for 90s kids. That show is My So-Called Life, which was rerun so often and was praised enough after the fact that it's easy to forget it was actually a flop when it came out. The 80s had Square Pegs, which didn't have the benefit of MTV giving it a second chance in reruns, but it still very much fills that same TV teen angst role for 80s kids. It's easy to focus on future superstar Sarah Jessica Parker, but Square Pegs was very much an ensemble piece about a group of 8 high school freshmen struggling to fit in. It stood out from other teen-based shows of its era by having actual teenagers playing the characters, as well as being contemporary, which critics at the time praised it for. It only got 20 episodes, but because the show was so good at being a snapshot of that moment in time, it still stands as a great picture of what it was like to be a teenager in the early 80s. Craig T. Nelson had been kicking around on television for over 15 years before landing the lead role on the beloved 1989 sports sitcom Coach. And though most of those small-screen roles were single-episode appearances, there was an ABC show he starred in during the 1984 to 85 television season that frequently shows up on lists of the best shows of the decade, even though most people have forgotten about it. Call to Glory begins during the 1962 Cuban Missile Crisis. Nelson plays an Air Force pilot, and the show follows his military service and the family waiting for him at home. ABC made it known to the press that it was proud of the show, and was trying its best to find a time slot where it would secure the audience it deserved. Despite the network's faith and strong praise from critics, Call to Glory didn't find that loyal audience, and the show was honorably discharged before it got a second season. Considering how many promising sci-fi entries failed to make an impact during the crowded television landscape of the 1980s, it's not hard to see why production companies got a little gun-shy about the genre. One of the most notable one-season sci-fi wonders of the decade was Misfits of Science, and not only because it featured an early role by future Friends superstar Courtney Cox. The show focuses on a group of outcasts whose only unifying quality is that most of them have superpowers. The only one who doesn't is the group's leader, Dr. Hayes, whose job is to keep the team on track and out of trouble, but seems more adept at doing the exact opposite. When the series debuted in 1985, live-action shows about superhero teams weren't yet a popular genre, so that alone made Misfits of Science stand out. It lasted only 5 months, but what was there was solid and well worth seeking out for fans of today's lighter superhero TV show fare.